Hello everybody and welcome to another video. This is part 2 of a massive long questions and answers I did where I sat down and spoke for way too long and did loads of Q&A with you guys in celebration of the 1000th video. Of course this is part 2 of that, so it's not going to be the 1000th video, but if you like you'll probably be able to see in the description a link to the original video if you want to see that. It was about 2 hours the first one. I'm currently speaking to you as I'm uploading that first one. And now I'm just going through and editing the second part, which I'm guessing will be about 2 hours too, and then we'll have the final third part as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first one, and if you're still interested in listening to this, I hope you enjoy this one too. So let's just get going. I'll cut you back into my old commentary. I believe I'm about to be asked a Guild Wars 2 question. The next question... Kazaro says, if it comes to that ArenaNet won't make Cantha in Guild Wars 2, what would you do? Nothing. I don't have any choice about it. I wouldn't stop playing the game. It would be a damn shame, though. It's the Dragon Empire, people. It's the Dragon Empire. We are fighting the Elder Dragons. There could be a freaking Pale Tree there. Urgos could be the spirit, the avatar of their Pale Tree. There's so much stuff. So much stuff. And you shall see in the lore series. But, yeah, so nothing I could do. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of the devs there want to do it as well. The one dev that mentioned this certainly seemed like he wanted to go back. But, you know, they got to do what NCSoft says at the end of the day. Jacob Holmes says, where in England do you live? I live in the south of England. I live kind of near London. I live in a London overflow town that was very nice, luscious countryside, and suddenly kind of blew up very quickly. I live near another Guild Wars 2 YouTuber, actually, who I've never met in real life, but Kai Dream actually lives in the same county as me, so that's interesting. You also say, did you pass your driving test? I remember you were having lessons when you did the last Lara Croft. So when I was working in this other city that had like a, you know, sometimes often a 2-hour commute, and just destroyed me basically for no good reason in the end. When I was doing this, I knew if I could learn to drive, I would be in and out straight away. You know, I've got to be an independent person, and you know, learning to drive is a big part of that. And I'm way too old to have not learned to drive. It's very different in the States. I think a lot of people drive automatics in the States, don't you? Well, you kind of get sneered on here. I wouldn't really learn an automatic. No offense to anyone who's learning an automatic. So anyway, I was learning to drive. And it was going all right. Between me and you guys, my instructor, I did not really get on with at all. She was one of these people that clearly she didn't have much money or anything, and she was like working 2 jobs, and this was one of them. And she always just kind of gave off this impression that like life had dealt her a bad hand. And she was always kind of complaining about stuff, or I don't know. Our personalities just clashed quite a lot. We were always perfectly pleasant and civil to one another, and I was always very, very friendly with her. But, you know, for an example, like when I would pay her, like she'd count all the money to make sure it was all there and stuff. And then I'd be like, no, it's fine if you want to count it, just don't try and hide it. And then she'd come out with like some terrible excuse like, oh, you know, it just felt light in my hand. I just wanted to be sure. You know, it was just, so we didn't really get on that well. She also, I think, was a bad instructor. So when I'd quit my job, there was a lot less reason to learn. And I basically just stopped getting lessons from her because I don't have all the money in the world to do it anymore. Again, it ties back into if YouTube starts taking off, I can get a little bit more, then I can learn to drive, I can get that license. I wouldn't get a car for at least a year after my license because insurance is just so high, even for someone my age. You know, I'm a young man, basically. I get ridiculous insurance prices. So I would just pass my test, wait a year before I got a car, and, you know, that will help me with any other employment. But yeah, so I stopped having lessons. I only vaguely regret it. It would be nice to be able to say I can drive already, but it wasn't worth the money. It really wasn't. They weren't good lessons, and she wasn't a good person, really. Lost Messer, by the way, hello. This is kind of quite a long-term viewer of mine. Says, what are your computer specs? What hardware and software do you use to record videos these days? I can do a DX diag for you because I always forget, which sounds terrible, but I did build my entire PC for myself. So I've got an i7, it's an 860, its default clock is 2.8 gigahertz, which I've overclocked to 3.6. It has been much higher than that in the past, but it wasn't stable enough. I'm sure if I ran a really hard stress test on my system right now, it would still crash even at 3.6, but I've been running it at 3.6 for about a year now, and it's not died on me at all. So I've got a 3.6 gigahertz processor. I recently upgraded my graphics card because it wouldn't play nicely with my TV a lot of the time. I'm on, and this isn't the same on my channel page, I need to update the information there, but I'm now with AMD, not NVIDIA. I was on an NVIDIA 470, I think was my card. Now I'm on a Radeon 7900, which is very nice. It's quite nice. A lot of people have been saying from my Tomb Raider thing, oh, you're running TressFX, your computer must be beastly. Well, it's quite nice. So anyway, those are the 2 core specs that I've got. I've also got 8 gigs of RAM. Though I don't really care about RAM these days. I don't think many people should care about RAM that much these days. As long as you've got 4, you're alright. As for software, I use Fraps to record. I sometimes use DX Story. I haven't for a while. DX Story is great, but because it gives you so much freedom, I spend way too long pissing about with the video codecs and stuff, and I'm never happy with the quality to compression ratio, even though in theory it's way better than Fraps. So I kind of just found myself default back to Fraps. I will go back to DX Story at some point. For a long time, I've always used Sony Vegas for my editing, but I don't anymore. It crashes too much. The updates for each year aren't that good. So I'm kind of looking at learning Premiere right now at the moment. When I was at college, I used to use Premiere. That's what I did all of my projects on back then. And when I first started YouTube, that's what I wanted to get back into again, but I went to Vegas instead. So anyway, Premiere now, I'm only just getting to grips with it, but hey, there you go. So that's kind of what I used to produce the videos. I could talk more about it, but I'm sure most people aren't interested. PHZ3AKN, how do you say that? Asks, as someone who has stopped playing Guild Wars 2 months ago, how much do you still enjoy playing it? Are there still things that you can see for the first time? Would you enjoy playing through the story of another character? I still enjoy playing Guild Wars 2 a lot, but it's more the mechanical stuff that keeps me playing rather than anything to do with story. If PvP was everything it could be, then I would be PvP player. I wouldn't really be much PvE until new content came out. I did enjoy for a while maxing out all of my achievements. Like I went on a bit of a stint getting all of my Slayer titles, which if you can handle a bit of grind is actually kind of fun and kind of rewarding, and it's nice to see you make progress. So the only Slayer titles I don't have now are Plant, which requires killing Oak Hearts, and Giant, which obviously requires killing Giants, of which there's 2, 3 in the entire game, including personal story, which is crazy. So I still enjoy playing it, not as much as I did when the game first came out, honestly. But you know, I've seen all the content, I've played it. There are still character paths that I've yet to play, but I've already read about and kind of know the gist of what happens in them. So I'm not too excited about that either. I think a lot of my guild as well are kind of pessimistic about a lot of stuff, which rubs off on me on the wrong way. So, yeah, I still enjoy playing Guild Wars 2. I'd hate anyone to get the impression I don't enjoy Guild Wars 2. I do. It's just I've done a lot of it already. So very much is a living story for me right now. Are there any things that I still see for the first time? Yeah, there are, but they're not that exciting. You know, it's small little things. It's, oh, I never realised this little bit of dialogue. It's, oh, I didn't realise you could complete this heart quest this quickly or this easily. It's rare that you see those things and you're not rewarded for seeing those things. It's kind of like I mentioned in that Hollow video. You know, there's so much stuff in the cities. So much stuff. Just wait by any NPCs. Eventually they'll say something you haven't seen before. But the game doesn't encourage you to do it, so I can't say they're the highlights of my time playing the game. Would you enjoy playing through the story of another character? Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I'm let's playing that Sylvari character. I groaned about it a bit on the first chapter, but I've actually privately with a friend played the chapter coming up, and it's fantastic. It's probably one of the best bits of Guild Wars 2. It's very good. So yeah, I very much enjoy that, and slowly I guess I'll have all of the races, but I still have never played a Norn. But, you know, there's not too much to learn about what Norn go through as characters, honestly. You also say, since it's been a while now, I would love to hear your comments on the old prediction that Guild Wars 2 will die because it has no end game. Guild Wars 2 has end game. One of the things that annoyed me was when Ascended stuff came out and Fractals came out. This was the greatest boon for PvE endgame the game has had, and it continues to be, because if you're really actually interested in playing the game, getting Ascended stuff will excite you. I've seen a lot of comments from people saying, oh, Ascended items aren't encouraging me to have alt characters, and you know, there's so much you can complain about with this stuff, but I really don't agree. I very much enjoy what they've done with the Fractals. I think there's definitely more endgame now than there was when the game first came out. I think if the living story pulls up, there will be even more. It's just not kind of the traditional endgame other MMOs offer. And I also think ArenaNet's decision to not have anything like raids, nothing really fills the spot of raids. There's nothing really big, hardcore challenges where lots of people come together. That's a bit of a problem to me. You know, there's endgame, but it gets boring quicker. I think raids, that whole idea, is something I'm very much behind. I really like that. I like this idea of bosses hidden away, really epic encounters hidden away that you won't see for a long time. I think a big part of games in MMOs is the exclusivity of seeing something. The Dragon events, for example, ArenaNet have adopted for the entire game a very open policy. Everything's very accessible to all characters and people, because essentially, if you ask me, they've made a game for themselves, which is fine, and that's what they should do. But by that I mean everyone at ArenaNet, or a lot of people at ArenaNet, see, I can't generalize like this, but the game's built on the philosophies that people like to play MMOs, but they also grow up. They get full-time jobs. They get mortgages. They get families. They can't play so much. And Guild Wars 2 is very much a game for people with less time to play. And because of that, a lot of the content is very inclusive. That's always been a big part of the game. There's not so much competition between people. There's no world first, which I think would be a great asset to the game. And there's none of this stuff because it's all meant to be very inclusive. So if you look at the Dragon events, they're always rolling so frequently. Multiple Dragon events every day, all the time. And actually, the changes that have come recently, encouraging people to go to them all the time, have been very good. But the Dragon events get boring. People stop appreciating how cool they look after, very quickly. After the third, fourth time, you're really not marveling at any of the animations or anything anymore. So a lot of that excitement is drawn away from the game and it's gone. You still want to do them, but only because of the rewards, and that's about it. Now, with the raiding system, where it's very exclusive content instead of inclusive, you have this incredible thrill when you've spent a really long time doing very difficult content. All these things that could kick you out or prevent you from seeing it, but finally you've worked your way through it, and now you see the big dragon. Now you see the boss. The Shatterer isn't out on a field. He's deep down somewhere in a dungeon you can only run once a month, or he only lands once a month. It's rare as shit, and people love it. That excitement, that spark, that's what keeps people playing games, even though the content is less accessible. I think for really long-term players of the game, that would be a big boon. For me, I would love to see stuff like that, and I think that could do a lot for the end game, but Guild Wars 2 doesn't have it. And this is what I was talking about before as well, where sometimes you just have to question whether you're in the demographic for the game. I think in a lot of ways I'm not in Guild Wars 2's demographic, because that kind of stuff does excite me, because I am someone that plays the game so much that I would love these things, but the game's not built for me. It's built for those of us who have less time to play, and you have to accept that. You can't go on the forums and complain about that, because you're simply playing the wrong game if that's what you're looking for. So I look at Guild Wars 2, and there's some things that I would love to do differently, but I appreciate that there's a lot of people that would disagree with me on those occasions. There's a lot of people that would want the Shatterer to land 3 times as much as he currently does, because it means more chests, and that's all they care about. But there's in my opinion, ArenaNet spent a lot of time getting all these really nice character models in and animations and stuff. It doesn't matter how good they look, though. This is what I'm saying. The Dragon events, it doesn't matter how good they look. They're still, at the end of the day, if they're rolling so quickly, they're not epic anymore. And it's the same with the fractals. The first time I saw the Jade fractal or the Colossus fractal, oh my god, blows your head off. But you don't get that you don't get it that much the first time you do, and maybe some would argue that that's enough, because maybe only the first time you do with the raid system as well, or more exclusive systems. But it wears away very quickly, is what I'm saying. So people, I don't know, there's a lot of end game, I guess, to tie back into your question. It is there, but maybe it's just not the end game that a lot of people were expecting or wanted from MMOs, because it's not a traditional MMO. And endgame by its nature is aimed at people who are playing all the time, and they're not ArenaNet's priority, I fear. I don't think they are. So yeah, anyway, I don't know. I'm not too happy with my answer there, but hopefully you get the gist. Nikki Foroso6 says, will you be doing videos with Magical Mike in the future? Doesn't necessarily have to be Guild Wars related. I don't think so, really. We were doing alright with the jumping puzzle videos, which were quite fun, but we tried to do one at Winter's Day and it just kind of fell through, and I'm not too excited about the other jumping puzzles either. I've already seen a lot of them, and a big part of that series was that they were blind. I do like that kind of casual commentary type thing, but I approached Mike about another thing a while ago, but he didn't seem very interested. So yeah, I haven't really spoken to Mike a lot recently at all, so I doubt there'll be anything else with Mike, but there will be other people. There'll be other co-commentator stuff going on, so we'll see. Number 2, as a fan of the franchise, what do you think of the new Tomb Raider game? I really like it, and all I've seen for it as well online is a lot of praise for it, but I do then hear from people saying, oh, they're all saying it's a departure. I find it hilarious. Anybody that's complaining about the new Tomb Raider saying it's too different is, I can't take that seriously. I'm sorry. If you are criticising a game that's a part of an established franchise, and your reasons that you don't like it is because A, it's too different, or B, it's too similar, I don't care anymore. I'm sorry, you're just like everyone else in the Western market, and they're not things I care for. Some series like to be the same. You know, Ratchet and Clank is a great example for me. I love the Ratchet and Clank games. Every one is pretty much the same formula. It's just different weapons, different locations, different story. People love it. You know, it's the same for Pokemon. It's the same for Call of Duty. You know, most people are happy with that and content with that. If it's a game people are enjoying and they want to spend the money on essentially the same formula that's slightly different, then let them. You know, that worked. In other occasions, game developers like to change things around, and that can cause a little bit of controversy if they've changed them for the worse. But then the problem isn't that the game's different. The problem is that the game's different in a way that you don't enjoy. And that's what you should be highlighting to me, what it is you don't enjoy. Not just because it's different. If you're complaining because a franchise has changed, I don't care. You know, people spend too long complaining that something, you know, they want a next installment, but it's too similar, but it's too different, and nobody really knows what they want. It is so stupid. So I don't subscribe to it. Anyway, you only asked me what I think of the new game. I very much enjoy it. I really like the directions they've gone in. They have made changes. I think they have to. Obviously, one of the reasons why the original era of Tomb Raider games failed eventually and they had to reboot the series to what we saw in the Xbox 360 era, essentially, and PS3, was because the original game engine that Core Design were using got older and more outdated. You can look, what's fascinating, right, that kind of dawned on me the other day, compare Tomb Raider 1 graphics to other games that came out around that time for that console or whatever, right? And you'll see that Tomb Raider 1 is incredible graphically, really, really good. So one of its original successes was that the game was top end for graphics, right? Very, very impressive. But as they stuck with the same engine, their graphics stagnated quickly. This was a period where there was very rapid improvements in eye candy, basically. And then what you can do is compare, I believe it's Chronicles came out in 2000, I think. And you can compare Chronicles to, hold on, let me have a quick Google here, just so that Wikipedia, just so that I'm 100% sure. Okay, no, let's take the Angel of Darkness, because I think the Angel of Darkness came out in 2001. The Angel of Darkness does look better than Tomb Raider 1, but only marginally. It's the same kind of engine. It looks pretty much the same, right? But you can compare that to other games that have come out, and you're looking at stuff like Final Fantasy X that has just incredible facial animations and just all this mind-boggling eye candy, really good looking stuff that it just cannot compete. And I know I'm talking about a console generation jumping forward here, but the point still stands that one of the original merits that the game was sold on, it lost quickly because they stagnated. And not just in terms of the graphics, this is telling of the rest of the game too. The gameplay itself didn't change that much. The visuals changed a bit, but the gameplay didn't change that much. They just gave extra moves to Lara, and it was because they didn't change the series enough. They didn't stay competitive, and eventually they had to reboot it into the new Lara Croft. And even that didn't do too well. That was suddenly outshone by Uncharted, which just blew it out of the water. And now they've come back and they're doing really well with it, and I'm very impressed with it, and I really like how they've changed the franchise. So I'm very happy, and particularly a lot of the story-based stuff. Story is well hit and miss there. Like, anytime the game wants you to be emotional, you will not be emotional. It's not very good. But the overall, like, direction that the story could be going in, I don't want to spoil anything, is exciting to me. So that looks pretty good. Are you still playing on a TV screen instead of a PC screen? When did I ever mention that? Yes, and I'm on a different TV now, actually. Earlier I mentioned my graphics card was being weird, and I kind of upgraded it. Well, first I thought it was my TV that was being weird, so I changed that, and it turned out it was my graphics card. So yeah, I'm still on a TV. I don't mind, really. I'm not really snobbish about the resolution or anything. I sit really close to it as well. I think it's done my eyes in a bit as well, but hey, whatever. People say it doesn't, but I think it does. There's a rule. It's like for every 20 minutes you're looking at a screen, guys, you need to look 20 meters away for 20 seconds. Every 20 minutes you should do that if you want really healthy eyes and stuff. And that's crazy to me. The only way I would ever be able to do that is to set like an alarm that's constantly going off every day of my life after 20 minutes, or for as long as I'm in the system anyway. But yeah, so no, I'm on a TV screen. I don't know, is that really interesting? Have you ever played the Elder Scrolls games? If so, what do you think of it? Yes, I have. I think they're fantastic. My entry to the series was through Morrowind. I, however, am not one of these inane people that spend all their time waxing poetic about Morrowind. There's the best example I can possibly think of nostalgia clouding people's memories of how good games are. Go back and play it. I went back and played it a while ago. It's clunky, it's awful, it's not a good game. For its time, it was incredible. incredible, and please do cherish your memories, but don't sit on a Reddit thread or anywhere and tell me that Morrowind was far superior to any other Elder Scrolls game that's came out. It's simply not true. And if you're playing on PC, not to get all master racy or anything, but if you're playing on PC, just mod out stuff that you don't like. I'm very into the Elder Scrolls games, but I also have a bit of a sickness in that I spend too long modding them and less time playing them. I don't mold them into these perfect creations, and then I get in game, I play for a little bit, and I'm like, I want that slight tiny thing tweaked, and then I tweak it, and then I come back, and then I realise something small is broke, and then I tweak it. So I very much enjoy them, but I have to be careful with mods and stuff. There's an interesting mod that just came out actually called for Skyrim called Tropical Skyrim that basically makes it look like Far Cry. Very cool. It's pretty cool. So I might link that in the description. It is such a cool video, or mod, but the video for it is pretty nice. Anyway, what is the drink of my choice? And yes, I'm talking about alcohol. I would anybody that knows me IRL would have to say it's probably whiskey. But I'm not a connoisseur of the stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about with the stuff. I just like the flavour of it, and I don't appreciate it in the way anyone really I feel like a charlatan. If I say that I like whiskey, there's a certain expectation that comes with it, but that I do not fulfill whatsoever. The most I know about fine whiskey drinking is that it's okay to put a little bit of water in it to take the edge off. Most people are like, oh no, you should only have it neat. That's what a hard man does. It's one of those drinks, it's like, oh, if you drink it, people drink it to be men, oh, you've got to be a manly man to have whiskey. I hate that whole culture around it. I just like it. First started drinking it seriously, I talked about going to Tenerife. I was underage, actually, at the time, but we pulled some trickery to actually get it. But anyway, I started drinking whiskey then. It was just some, I'm sure, crappy watered down stuff that anyone would sniff at, but I enjoyed it. I got smashed off of it many nights in a row, and I've always had a bit of a taste for it. I'll drink plenty of alcohol, though. I really like cider as well. I don't know. See, I can only talk in vague terms because I don't spend enough time looking into it. So, yeah, okay, whiskey, that's about it. Thanks for all your vids, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. Next question is from Carl Watson. Anything on the horizon that interests me MMO-wise? Elder Scrolls Online? Camelot Unchained? Elder Scrolls Online is interesting. A lot of people would have been asking me to cover it. And it seems like one of those things I could do. I could drop the Oculus Rift stuff. I could drop my ideas for the daily deal. And I could start doing upcoming coverage for the Elder Scrolls Online and basically fill the same niche I did for the Guild Wars community there. And because the Elder Scrolls Online will probably be much bigger, if I was quite daring or cheeky, I could do that. But I'm not that interested in it. I remember all the negativity and kind of raised eyebrows that came originally. I know how MMOs can disappoint people. I am keeping my eye on it. I probably will play it at some point. I don't know whether it would be a big part of me with YouTube. Another game as well, I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy series. I've never got into any of the MMOs. Again, subscription fees, which I talked about, I'm kind of against. But FF14 was such an abysmal, failure of a game. I kind of consider it one of the biggest gaming disasters I'm really aware of. Incredibly bad, non-functioning piece of crap that came out. I'm genuinely shocked, but I think it's an amazing thing to look at in terms of the games industry, at what it kind of means for companies trying to release MMOs. And the fact that they're now doing a reboot, it very much interests me. I think I will play the reboot of it. I've got a couple of friends who are interested in playing it too. I think I will play the reboot just to see how much they can improve what was such a stinking pile of doo-doo into an actual MMO. And it's a bonus that it's a part of the Final Fantasy series, which I could enjoy very much. So those two really are the only ones I'm looking at a lot. Arcade seems kind of cool, but it's also in that kind of basket for me where it's one of those Korean MMOs that's kind of deceiving and worrying. I once played an MMO. Actually, I think someone else is going to ask me what other MMOs I played, so never mind. I'm not even that far in here. This is going to end up so long. Okay, no, I'll skip past a couple. RS Repulsive says, did Guild Wars 2 live up to your expectations? Yes, very much. Because I don't mean to be big-headed or anything, but I think a lot of people find it easy to be overhyped, and I don't think I overhyped myself. As much as I may come across in the videos, I'm actually kind of cynical about a lot of stuff, and yeah, it lived up to my expectations. I wish it could have been more, but it's easy to wish, and it's harder to make a really good game. So yes, I'm very happy with what Guild Wars 2 did launch like. Burnt Bacon asks, are you actually a potato? Am I actually wooden? Yes and yes. Ramis asked for my real name. Not going to happen. It's Mr. Potatoes. Hexen203 said, is there any place you go when needing feedback about Guild Wars 2 in regards to builds, gearing a character, or just hidden ways to enjoy the game? Also, another one, if you don't mind, what sort of preparations you take before recording a video? Vocal exercises, pre-testing the run, making loads of sound and video files to test your editor skills? Editor skills. Okay, that's quite a few questions. First of all, I'm subbed to the Guild Wars 2 subreddit. I read it pretty much every day. I still follow Guild Wars 2 Guru. I'm not on the official forums really that much. I would like to look at the dev tracker a lot more frequently than I am. I'm always talking about Guild Wars 2 either in-game because of you guys speaking to me or through YouTube messages. So I'm always having some kind of discourse about it. But I never really post and say, hey, is this build any good? And I also don't subscribe to the idea that there's some hidden way to play Guild Wars 2 that would make people enjoy it so much more. This is coming from someone that played Guild Wars 1 by turning off pretty much every element of the UI I possibly could so that I would actually focus on the environments and not the UI. Guild Wars 2 is already kind of built with that philosophy in mind anyway to an extent, but there's a lot less customization you can do with the UI and stuff. Combat Mod 2.0 had a preview on Reddit the other day and it looks fantastic. It's like changed all the UI, but it doesn't look like ArenaNet care about that kind of stuff anymore. They don't want the game to be modular. We always knew there weren't ever going to be add-ons necessarily fully supported because they didn't like the culture that developed for it in games like World of Warcraft, where just the add-ons play the game for you, which I agree with. But as a result of these decisions that they've made, I don't think there's too many hidden ways to enjoy playing the game. You know, there's always a post, oh, my kid played Guild Wars 2, and look, he just enjoys it at face value for this, and this. It doesn't cut it. You can try it for a while, or at least I can try it for a while, but you either enjoy the game or you don't. And I don't think it's really my job, definitely not, or anyone else's, to teach you how to enjoy something more. If it doesn't strike with you, then it's not the game that you wanted it to be, and maybe you should leave it there. You know, there's so much talk, oh, you might not enjoy it, but there's this extra little thing you can do. Look, if you don't enjoy it, it's okay to not enjoy something. That's as much as I'll say. Also, another one, what sort of preparations do I take before recording a video? It depends on the video. If it's a lore series video, it takes months and months and months of preparations and, you know, bringing people together and feeling like some kind of freaking project manager that has to impose deadlines on people and stuff and, you know, really working together to create a script and, well, no, not create a script, but create all the art, and then I'm working on the script myself, and then I go off and do all the editing. Other videos have a little bit more preparation. Some of them, if I'm doing post-commentary, then I know I'll be filming different stuff to be edited together later. Some of them are much more simple than that. Let's Plays are piss easy to make. Grimrock, I'll play through the floor in my own time, and then I'll come back later and just record it as I go, you know. So anyway, I don't do that much preparation. I make no bones about it. It just depends on the video. Sometimes there is a lot. It just depends. It really does. A lot with Guild Wars 1 stuff, really difficult challenges and things that I had to do where I was solo in the game. Took tons of preparation as well, but not so much for the Guild Wars 2 Let's Play. Do I make loads of sound and video files to test my editor skills? No, I don't really think I have many editor skills. If I ever want to do something in particular interesting, I'll learn a new functionality in the editing software I'm currently using, but a lot of it's quite basic. Once you get the general skill set down, I don't deviate it from it that much, and I think that's a flaw with myself, actually. I'd love to deviate it from it more, and I'm hoping that learning Premiere, as I currently am, will open up some more avenues for me. We shall see. What was the first game I ever played? Already did. Do I have a beard? In some videos I have a beard, in others I don't. It usually comes down to I'm too lazy to shave it. I like the idea of having a beard. My hairline's receding a bit recently, so a beard kind of makes up for it. I did read this interesting thing that men that have a lot of facial hair tend to like bald quicker. But I don't have that much. Well, I've got a lot of facial hair, but I've still got like little patches that's not grown out yet. And I wouldn't grow a really thick beard or anything until I knew it looked good. Most of the time, I've got like not quite a full beard, but I've got a little bit of stubble going on, and I think that I look pretty good with that anyway. So I usually keep it that way. Beards are weird things as well. I always like to feel like I'm making progress somewhere. And when you're growing up, you just kind of get pushed into school and you always have that assurance, that structure in your life that you are going forward with your qualifications and everything's laid out for you. And in terms of your body, you're always getting taller, you're getting stronger from a male perspective anyway. You're getting this, and you always feel like you're going somewhere. But then there's going to be a point where you stop getting taller. And and there's going to be a point where you leave school, and it's a terrifying thought to me that I'm still not developing as a person in some way. And it's like, because I'm no longer getting taller or necessarily stronger unless I start working out, a beard, facial hair is like my last saving grace. It's like, I'm still growing, look, I'm still getting more of my hair, look, I have more chest hair now, yay, as well, I'm more of a man. And then it's like, oh no, I'm starting to get back hair, no, it's too much. So anyway, I know, I think I look okay with a beard. It's just, I think I look a lot smarter and a lot younger with the beard cut and shaved. So I shave as much as I can. Currently, I'm shaving a lot anyway. Sometimes I might grow it out again. I'm not sure. Thiefter says, will you be doing a blind playthrough of Legend of Grimrock 2? Possibly. A lot of people have been asking for blind reactions. It depends how stupid I feel. I get really worried about blind playthroughs for games that already exist, that everybody can be an armchair expert about. If it's a new game, though, then blind LPs are pretty good, so... But then when it is a new game, if you're just bandwagoning on a new game, I'd prefer it not to be blind, because it seems so effortless to just load up a new game and talk while you're playing it. And I don't want to get caught into that. One of the main reasons I didn't want to do Tomb Raider blind, but also because I didn't know I wanted to do Tomb Raider at all until I'd finished it and understood just how good it was. What kind of music do you listen to, and which are your favourite bands? So I can wholeheartedly give the lame answer and say I listen to all kinds of music. I don't listen to much rap or anything. But I guess if there's one genre I listen to a lot, I listen to a lot of post-hardcore, and that has a lot of connotations that I do not fit into whatsoever. I'm not your stereotypical kind of post-hardcore kind of guy, but I really enjoy that kind of music. Funeral for a Friend I listen to a lot. I still on occasion listen to a lot of Alexis on Fire, which is really kind of, that's probably right up there on the top end of music. I think a lot of people wouldn't really be behind or understand, but I really like Alexis on Fire. Like Happiness by the Kilowatt has got to be one of my favourite songs of all time. I love a lot of stuff that's not necessarily post-hardcore either, that like metalcore. I really like Killswitch Engage, fantastic band, and a lot of just more kind of generic metal too. I've been listening to a lot of Disturbed recently, but then there's also a lot of types of metal that I really don't like at all and just can't get behind, like death metal and stuff. I just, bleh. So I don't know, I guess they're quite specific tastes, and in terms of what would really define me out of the norm, that's the kind of stuff I like to listen to. But again, I find myself talking about an area I don't really understand well enough, or I don't feel like I have enough terminology to accurately describe to you all the different bands I like in that particular realm. But I suppose, at the same time, I listen to a lot of really kind of poppy, modern, easy listening kind of music. Half the episodes of Grimrock, when I've been playing The Floor Before, I've been listening to Ed Sheeran just like non-stop. And I listen to a lot of stuff like that, like Alanis Morissette. It just depends what mood I'm in. But if we're talking about particular tastes, that's the kind of stuff. I remember at school I used to listen to a lot of Hawthorne Heights as well, that I kind of look back a little bit and shudder when I see that, because that very much kind of paints a certain picture that I don't really fit in. But yeah, this is all kind of music that I and a lot of my friends used to like. So I get, if anything, nostalgic about with some of them. But, some have stuck with me. Some bands really have. What are your opinions on the current achievement system in Guild Wars 2? Do you like it as it is, or would you improve it in any way? I think there's two things that the achievement system needs to be improved, and I think they've already started with one. First, the points need a real function, and being able to spend them will be fantastic to help that. One of the early frequent questions that came up, obviously from people that have just come from World of Warcraft or Rift perhaps, they're all asking, what's the point in achievements? What can I spend my achievement points on? I think ArenaNet originally envisaged them as just being for prestige. Obviously, people wanted more. I think that actually allowing us to spend them on things that we want to spend them on will go a long way to improving the achievement system. And what do we want to spend them on? That's one of the questions, obviously, for any kind of end-game content. What's the reward we're looking for? Maybe a different subject altogether. But, this is why I quite like ascended items as well, because it adds that extra thing in. Mini pets aren't very prestigious in Guild Wars 2, neither are titles. And both of those are big problems. If they were better, if they were more sought after as they were in Guild Wars 1, we might see some serious improvements for Guild Wars 2 in the way of the achievement system and just any kind of extra content they add. But they're not, and I think that's because a lot of the time they're overshadowed by the stuff. There were limitations in Guild Wars 1 that meant the rewards meant a lot more than they really did or will in Guild Wars 2 ever. It's not something that's easy to fix. Like, what I mean by that is, in towns in Guild Wars 1, you couldn't cast your skills or have your weapons out, but you could have your mini-pet out, so your mini-pet was more valuable. Now in Guild Wars 2 you can have your skills and your weapons and stuff and all your flashy effects that makes your mini-pet look really small by comparison. And what are ArenaNet going to do? Disable all skills in cities? No, that's just going to wind people up. So mini-pets are less useful. Well, do we make them bigger? Well, what if they then become obtrusive? Do we add an extra element to the UI to allow them to always be out so people appreciate them more? Well, then they're all over the place and maybe they don't feel so special anymore anyway. You know, it's a difficult thing to improve. But the other part, so half of it I think is making the achievement points themselves spendable and redeemable on good quality items in the game, which they're already working towards, which is good. The other half is titles themselves. They need to revamp what achievements give us titles, and they need to make the titles way more visible and actually mean stuff. There's so many small things that they could add into the game that would make a lot of this more interesting. For example, the Slayer titles. Why don't we get a mini pet representing the creature that we've slain 1,000 of when we finish that achievement? That would be cool. And you know, I don't even think that the stuff like the Plant Slayer or the Giant Slayer, which are incredibly difficult to get, they're imbalanced. They're very different to, say, Risen Slayer. They're very hard to get, but they're banded in together. And obviously that's an oversight from ArenaNet originally, but I wouldn't be an advocate of removing that stuff because those are difficult titles to get, prestigious things to get. Add a title to Giant Slayer, for example, and then people will really want it, and that's kind of exciting. So I would say leave Giant Slayer as it is, but give someone a unique reward for it, and people will flock to it, and they'll love it. Same with Thirst Slayer, it's in the same boat. But then there are other achievements that are either just way too easy to get, or don't give you enough. You know, you shouldn't get 5 points for completing a jumping puzzle when you only get 5 points for finishing some of the hardest stuff in the game. Like, actually, how many points do you get for doing 5,000 events? I can't remember. But, you know, they just need to balance what the rewards are and perhaps extend the length of some of the achievements. I mentioned in one of my very first videos after Guild Wars 2 launched about how I think a lot of the achievements are way off. They're way too easy to get. And I still stand by that. I think some are just about right. But titles, if they're done right, titles will be some of the best ways to keep people playing the game. Because if people really care about titles, and the only way they'll really care about them is to make them visible and difficult to get. If people really care about titles, they can be a great tool to spreading the population of the game around. Stop people focusing so much on just acquiring hordes and hordes of gold, which contributes to inflation in the game. And just keep playing. I forget what my final point there was going to be. But yeah, titles could be fantastic. They just need a rebalance. So currently, it's not serving the function it could be. It's just one of those many things in Guild Wars 2 that could be fantastic. You know, if all of these little things were improved overnight, you know, Guild Wars 2 could be very, very exciting to me. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the achievement system so far. I'm going to get another glass of water. We're another hour and a half in, so give me a sec. Okay, I'm back again. Hello, everyone. I was just watching the slow-mo, guys, while it was exporting there. Right, so Aiden says, hi there. I was just wondering if you would like to answer these two questions. Well, yes, I would. The first is, what are your opinions, if you have any, on the Elder Scrolls Online, and how do you think it will compare to the great new MMOs that are already coming out, such as Guild Wars 2? I think the Elder Scrolls Online is based on an incredible IP, and it has, therefore, incredible potential. But we all know the same sad story with a lot of MMOs. I really like their 3 faction system. As long as regular Elder Scrolls games continue, they've got a big problem here where the Elder Scrolls is a well-known single-player franchise that has always resisted having any multiplayer component whatsoever because they don't want to dilute the single-player experience. And it's always been very successful on that merit. Now we're talking about turning games that are along those lines into massively multiplayer game, which is going to make for some big changes. Now, if the only people interested in the Elder Scrolls Online are people who are fastly interested in regular Elder Scrolls gameplay, they could be setting themselves up to disappoint people. But I also think that in a lot of ways the gaming community at large is smart enough to know that there's a big difference between MMOs and single player games these days, and maybe it will be successful anyway. We'll see. It's something I think I'll probably play it. Whether it will be any part of my YouTube life, I don't know. The next is, has anyone in public that you don't know heard of your channel and or recognized your voice from these videos? No, not necessarily. I don't think. And it's always something that's terrified me, honestly. I don't know whether I mentioned before, but I've always been very separate with my YouTube stuff and with my real life stuff. Like, some of my closest friends have no idea that I even do this. And I'm not sure really what it is that's caused me to be so kind of private about it and keep it so separate. But it has worried me. There was a really surreal moment when I was on my apprenticeship where we were watching like a Yogscast video. Like the instructor put it on to demonstrate a point, and it was just the weirdest thing in my life. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is on, because I'd been watching the Yogscast for a long long time before that. One other guy who was in the room recognised who they were at the time. Just weird stuff like that just very much freaks me out. You know, if I ever did get to the point where someone did recognise me, I'm sure I'd have a pretty interesting conversation with them about what I've been doing the past couple of years when I'm not around them. But yeah, so no, not so far. And I think here's another fact as well. Things look a lot bigger from the outside. I look like I'm a lot bigger and hold a lot more influence from the outside. The truth is, I'm really just a nobody that's got a microphone that some people listen to on the internet. And it's funny, just the fact that I get a question like that shows really how little, no offense, some people really understand what numbers can mean. You know, these are big numbers before that kind of stuff starts happening, and I'm nowhere near it. And for all intents and purposes, I'm just a humble little YouTuber. I'm not even the biggest guy in the Guild Wars 2 game anymore, so... and Guild Wars 2 is only such a small little facet of the whole interweb. So anyway, yeah, no, nobody's ever recognised me, and I'm going to stop rambling about that one. Thanks for your time. Do you think they will give some love to PvP in the future? They don't really care about it at the moment, says Mirror RSC2. No, I wouldn't say that. I think they do. They've got a couple of devs that are working on PvP that really care about it. It's just they don't have the support that they need, and they're doing what they can, which is put out new maps. They believe that that's going to be kind of the big thing, then let them put out new maps. But I think PvP will get love. I just think it'll be too little too late, because ArenaNet aren't going to be in a position to make Heart of the Mists free to play like they should. Like, the only thing that will save it. Mobski Forever says, Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2? I myself get bored quite quickly with Guild Wars 2, but that's only because I have nobody to play with, haha. See? So that's what I'm talking about. If you don't have a community or kind of a social structure going on there, then you're screwed. Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2, though? I think going into Guild Wars 1 with no expectations for what it was going to be like, and no idea how long I'd end up playing it and how much content there would be, overall I look much more fondly at Guild Wars 1 than I currently do with Guild Wars 2, because Guild Wars 2 has all this extra stuff going on with it, because you can build it up to be so much. The excitement that I remember feeling on the very first trailer of Guild Wars 2, is just unbelievable, and how different the game has ended up. I remember comparing the trailer for the first Guild Wars 2 trailer. I remember comparing that to like graphics like one of the Fables that was coming out, Fable, and I guess in some way I was thinking that the content of the game could be a little bit like the Fables, but it's not, of course. Not at all. So Guild Wars 2 is a bit more of a roller coaster, and I very much enjoyed much of my time playing it, but it's easy to look on the past with you know, happiness and think, oh, everything with Guild Wars 1 was great. It probably wasn't, you know. And I had long periods with Guild Wars 1 where I played it for a long time and then didn't play it for a long time, and then played it but then didn't play it. Guild Wars 2, it's been solidly playing it the entire time in a way that Guild Wars 1 probably never grabbed me at all. So it's hard to compare, really. I have fond memories, though, in one case, and I'm building those memories in the other case. So apples and oranges. Whew. Okay, hello, everyone. I'm kind of cutting in again with new commentary. I'm actually going to end this part. It's not going to be 2 hours. I'm actually going to end this one about 40 minutes in. I think that's still bite-sized enough, hopefully, that it's still kind of long, but also people might actually want to sit down and watch the whole thing. So anyway, there you go, guys. I chose factions for the footage, my whole Let's Play of that. I really didn't get enough time to show it all, but, you know, I guess that's not really what this video is for. There's a whole LP there anyway for that. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Hopefully I'm not starting to sound too low energy. Do bear in mind that I was just talking for many hours. I think that's going to be a problem with later parts where I just start to sound really low energy and you can hear my throat going. And I think some of my answers as well, I don't know. I've been really struggling not to edit a lot of my answers, but they were my original answers. A lot of them I think are quite negative and probably not too reflective of what I actually think. But hey, anyway, thanks very much, guys. I'll catch you next time for part 3 when we look at Nightfall in probably another 45 minutes or so. So thanks very much, guys. I'll catch you next time.